All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremy Ferguson, the real estate aficionado, wildlife consultant,
and Big Goober.
But well, you got that right.
All right, we have to label this one as explicit content, guys. Great.
Yep.
Good start.
But not. I am not the AL Deer Legend.
No, you are
That is
not.
you.
That would be Matt Brock over here, Mr. AL Deer Legend / Habitat First property owner.
Speaking of AL
I
Deer,
hope y'all are happy.
I just caught him on it.
Yeah, just got him. He was on. We're trying to start this thing, and he was over there on
I was
AL
trying
Deer.
to respond to something.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope you make more bets on there.
No, that's never going to happen again, ever.
Oh, me.
I didn't really bet on there. I just it spilled over.
Oh, it spilled over into there.
Spilled over, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, guys, today we are continuing on our kind of habitat, I don't know if you want to call it a series, but the topics we've been talking about here lately have been more the management calendar and what to do, when to do it. We're talking spring plots on the last one, what you should be planting, when you should plant it, based on your soil type and climate, all those sort of things in the southeast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about minerals and supplemental feeding. It seems to be a kind of a hot topic among just outdoorsmen, hunters in general, but also you have guys who are, more on the academic side of things and have the academic credentials like Matt and Jeremy, who may have a little different opinion, may have a little hot take for us on some of this stuff, depending on your situation. So I don't know. We could offend a few people during this episode, or
I hope so.
That's the goal. We're not trying to educate anybody. We just want to offend as many people.
Offend as many as possible.
Yeah. So, well, guys, we're going to be talking about minerals, mineral sites, supplemental feeding, all that kind of umbrella. Everything falls under that. And
We're going to talk about Clorox stumps.
hey, Clorox stumps, man. And listen, if you're listening to this, I want you to send us a DM if you've ever heard someone tell you to do that. Because I don't know if it's just a local thing around here somewhere, or if that's like widely known, if that's like common knowledge across the board for everybody. But I'd heard 2 people in my lifetime say, yeah, man, take Clorox bleach and pour it on a stump, and man, they'll eat it to the ground. And I thought they were insane, until I heard somebody else say that, and I was just like, do people really do this? Is this a real thing? So, anyways,
Just ask AL Deer.
hey, well, why don't we just ask the legend? We got him right here. He's the authority. So we'll jump in. I guess we can just start with. We'll start with Jeremy. We'll get his take first.
Oh, Lord.
Question number 1 here. We're talking about minerals, and this is meaning something that is placed there by a human. All right, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, these are if a mineral is something that's found in nature, but in a block form, a rock form, something like that you go and place out in a site wherever it is that you've designated on a piece of property for game to come and lick on, basically, or disturb the ground, whatever. So with that kind of thought, with minerals and supplemental feeding, meaning like some kind of a protein pellet or corn, whatever it is it effective? Is that something that people should be doing from an efficacy standpoint to help make their property better?
Do it.
Do it?
Yeah.
No.
All right, well, that's it, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
I'm kidding. It depends.
Oh, he did it.
He did it.
Oh, it does depend. If you're, hey, come on in here,
Hey, what's
Trey.
up, Trey?
Come on in.
Come on.
We got an audience, guys.
One more headset for you.
Yeah.
Oh, me. What's up? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for loading me up.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Sorry, guys. Not technical difficulty.
No, not this time.
That's Sunshine Trey.
Yeah. I like that mustache he's got going
Oh,
on.
man, it's something, ain't it?
Yeah.
It's something to be 23-year-old.
Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Kind of. Yeah. Sort of.
A long time ago.
Are you really accomplishing anything in a free range setting?
Yeah, and I should back up and say we're not talking about a high fence where you
We're going
have
to talk about both.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, my question
Yeah.
right here is not, your average landowner is probably not somebody with a high fence project.
Right.
Most people are free range. So
Free range setting, if you are doing it primarily as an attractant and as a place to gather intel about your deer herd, yes, it's effective. If you are trying to impact the overall herd health of a free range population, it has a minimal impact. Does it have an impact? Yes, but it is minimal.
And oftentimes not measurable.
Yeah, you've just kind of got to understand that going in. Do I do it? Yeah, I say I do.
Back up just a minute.
I do not supplemental feed on our free range properties. I do have mineral sites, but that to me is primarily for photographic evidence purposes.
right, and that's what I mean. We probably should even preface it with that. Is it effective? Well, is it effective at what?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
It is
Like,
effective
Yeah,
at
define
certain
what
things.
Yes.
what are you measuring
Yeah.
here?
Exactly, because if you've got, like you said, hey, I've had these 4 or 5 bucks that I think made it through hunting season. Maybe they lived, through the spring. They've shed their horns now and
Antlers.
I'm sorry, you guys.
Gosh,
You can't-
I thought we were past that.
No, we're not
Nah.
past that. We're on a network called the Okayest Hunter. You
Yeah,
know what
we're just okay.
all right, we are just
Oh, that's
okay.
right. We're just average.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
we're just
Yeah.
average hunters,
Yeah.
And so that's what their phrase is. You can't eat the horns.
That's right.
So anyway, but maybe they've shed, and you're trying to make sure to see what inventory of who's on the property, who's made it, who hasn't. Extremely effective in that.
It is very
Yeah.
effective in that regard. But like Matt said, it's probably not even measurable from a health impact. And really, there's nothing, honestly, that we can do to measure that impact in a free-range herd. We can do herd health studies, but we're not going to be able to tie that down to minerals. The only thing where I think some of that does help is in your high-density situations, enclosures, things of that nature. Now, this is anecdotal, not particularly my experiences. These are guys that I know and respect their opinions that have been managing high fences and enclosed facilities for years and years. They are really high on some of these minerals and some of the feeds that are medicated, doing that a couple of times a year to try to eliminate parasites. But like Matt and I, were talking earlier, in free range, healthy herds where deer are in good condition, we don't see a lot of parasite overloading. Now, if you're in a deer herd that's very stressed, way too many deer, not enough food, things of that nature, then you may have an overloading of some of these parasites, and you may want to do some of these things. But I don't know that I would go out there and just arbitrarily go, okay, I need to buy this medicated stuff because my deer are in bad shape. You kind of need to know if they are or not.
Matt?
Yeah, so of all the ways that I could spend my resources and my money and my time, I don't place any emphasis on minerals
From a herd health.
from a herd health perspective. Now, I do place minerals out at certain times of the year, typically during the velvet growing season, so, July, August, September. I'll place them out there for, like he said, photographic evidence of what I have. But that's really the only thing, because there's not really a way to measure whether you're having an impact, positive or negative, on the deer herd. Now, the name of my business is Habitat First Properties, so that's where I choose to focus. My emphasis is on habitat. Get the habitat in order first, then you can start worrying about all these other things. But if you look at the amount of time that a deer spends eating natural vegetation versus the time that it spends at a mineral site during the summer, it is a very small percentage of that deer's diet or, time spent there versus time spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, it's not that important to me.
Well, I've heard you say that before. Like, just look at how often they visit your sites versus when they're doing other things, where
Right.
they're eating, native browse and stuff. But I do think, like, the argument is you'll hear other guys go, well, yeah, man, but I put out a whatever your favorite insert the name block or rock or whatever out there, and man, they just hammer it. And it's like because they need that stuff. Their bodies need it. And what I would say to that, again, as somebody who's not necessarily educated like you guys are, like, you could say the same thing for humans, right? Like, I'm going to go eat at whatever, Big Mike Steakhouse, not because I need it, because it's good and it's there. And, if you put something out there for them, they don't necessarily have to need it, but they might want to go visit it because it tastes good.
Well, and I've noticed, too, there are varying degrees of usage depending on what property you're on. I've had clients that had terrible habitat. I mean, terrible habitat with very little browse, and deer would absolutely destroy their mineral use areas. And I could put out the same minerals on my place. We have superb habitat, more browse than deer can possibly consume. They won't touch it. Like, literally won't touch it. I can put out some minerals on certain sites, and I will get 10 pictures in a month. And a lot of the deer will not repeat visit. They're not going to come back. I may just get them walking through, smelling of where the minerals are, but not actually utilizing it. Deer don't need it.
Yeah.
They're getting what they need from the native vegetation that's there.
Gotcha.
What about, I get questions a lot.
Quit looking at your phone. I got in trouble for that a few minutes ago.
Well, yeah, but I'm making money while I look at my phone.
I may be making money. You have no idea.
Why do, and I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you so you can answer.
No, he's going to try to make a fool out of me.
No, you know the answer. Why do you see an uptick in deer activity at mineral sites after rain?
Oh, that's easy.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
We'll tell the
It
people.
activates the minerals
Okay.
in the soil. Yeah.
Okay. I get asked that question a lot.
Yeah, I know. I know so good. I'm
not gonna say.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say anything.
It's like brewing coffee.
Yeah.
At the surface.
That's a pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
You didn't ask me to explain it. You just said, do you know why? Heck yeah, I know why.
Okay. Well, tell the people why.
I just did.
Tell them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that question a lot. It's like, man, it's 1,000 degrees. There's flies, mosquitoes, and there's nothing coming to my mineral site. Then it rained, and like every deer on the place came to my mineral site.
Stomp a mud hole in it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and I kind of chuckle. I don't fault people for having the opinions that they do. A lot of them just don't know any better. But I've had people come to me and say, "Man, ever since I started putting out that mineral, man, I've had much bigger bucks, and I've had this." And no, it's just coincidence that occurred at the same time. It's not affecting antler growth, not on a measurable scale. You may have had a deer or two that performed very well because of the genetics that they possess.
And they showed up at that site.
You're right. They just showed up and they happened to survive long enough to express what they have.
Is it fair to say that while these minerals or supplemental feed or whatever isn't necessarily going to add 50 pounds of antler in a season, or 50 inches? I'm sorry, I mixed up stuff. 50 inches of antler or 50 pounds of body weight is what I was trying to say.
Right.
But like that's not going to happen. But does it kind of make them an overall healthier deer? Is that fair to say?
If everything else is right,
then
yes. If everything else is wrong, then no.
Yeah.
If your habitat sucks and you're on sandy ground and you've got no food plots, closed canopy forest, then putting out a mineral site in a feeder that's not filled consistently, then no.
Yeah.
And it may get heavy usage.
Yeah.
Because they don't have very many other options. But because they don't have very many other options, it's also not doing that. It's not making that much of an improvement.
Gotcha. Well, now that you guys have shot all that to the ground, let's go through all these other questions. Like you said that, like, for inventory purposes, you do put that stuff out. You do want to get some trail cam photos of these deer coming through. Take an inventory of what you have. In that respect, what do you use? I mean, can you just go to your co-op and grab a salt block and throw it out there?
You can.
Or is there a need to have something other than that? Is there a need to spend your money, like, we've talked about spending resources wisely and doing the best we can with that kind of stuff? Does it make sense for us to go and spend more money getting some kind of a block of some kind that has more stuff in it?
Well, if I'm trying to get pictures, I want something that is the best attractant out there. And from what I have seen, by far, just shelled corn is going to get more deer to come consume in front of that camera than just about anything. But as far as blocks and minerals and that kind of thing go, and I'm not endorsing any one particular brand, but I have really had great results in late summer with the Big and J blocks. They just seem to attract deer. So Big and J, hey, y'all are doing something right.
See, I hadn't even used them. My standard go-to is I go to the co-op. I get a 50-pound bag of trace mineral salt and a 50-pound bag of dicalcium phosphate. Mix it up 1-to-1, stir it up in the soil, and then I throw a bio rock on it. And I'm just trying to say it that way without saying trophy rock or the biologic rock or all these rocks, all these mined rocks. I'll throw one of it on top just to let rain, wash and erode that down into the soil too.
Gotcha. So that's what to use. And during the spring and summer months, those tend to work pretty well for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's...
Yep. You need, if you're going to monitor deer on sites like that, you need to freshen those things up during turkey season.
I was going to say that was kind of the thing is when.
Yep.
I don't think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, deer don't tend to hit those sites nearly as much during the season. It seems like, and again, this could just be perception, but it seems like, at least for me, in my experience, they really don't even care about that kind of stuff until they start to shed. And once that happens, then it's like, man, they'll really go and start working on those things.
It's typically May or so before I start seeing heavy usage on those. And, deer's dietary needs change at certain times of the year, and they know what they need. It's just it's ingrained in them. They know what to seek out. So, you need to place that out there when they most need it or think they do. Like I said, they're going to get on a good site with great habitat. They're going to get what they need from the plants. But I've seen very heavy usage in poor habitat areas.
Yeah.
Because they know what they're lacking, and they hit those minerals.
Yeah, and, I mean, there's been countless studies out of Texas, in enclosures and free range, for that matter, where, of course, everything in Texas seems to be good for a deer. But, and this is more from a supplemental feed side than it is minerals. But when they have all the food they want to eat from a supplemental standpoint, a feed and minerals, they actually switch over and then will just start eating only the most nutritious plants.
Right.
And can actually degrade the habitat because of that.
Because they select.
Hammer it.
Yeah, they select certain plant species and get what they need from that, and they don't mess with the moderately preferred. Or
So if they do that, they may actually impact the reproductive success of those plants. They do, then they may not exist there, or may need to be supplemented by seed or something like that. So supplemental feeding can be a catch-22 to an extent, unless you've just got tremendous habitat. And I think that happens from a big part in Texas when it's dry.
Yeah.
When it rains a lot in Texas, there's more food out there than you could ever imagine.
It's incredible. To be such an arid place when they have a wet spring and summer, the amount of food is mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
But in a dry year, the lack of food is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind
Dirt
of
and rocks.
Yeah.
You know, and I've never hunted Texas. You guys have, but I've always just kind of wondered if that's the reason why you can run down a road and with a corn spreader, you know what I mean? Just spread out corn on the road, and then as soon as the truck goes out of sight, heads start popping out, you know, on the roads, and it's because there's just nothing else to eat.
Well,
that and their condition to it.
I was going to say it's conditioning.
Yeah,
You can get deer to behave the same way here.
Yeah, it's Pavlov's law. You know, you can train a deer just like you can train a dog. And people say you can't kill mature bucks on corn on bait and bull. You can train them just like you do anything else, as long as you do it the right way.
Yeah, keep pressure down.
That's it.
There have been
It's all about pressure.
Very few deer the last few years that we couldn't kill if we wanted to.
Over corn or something.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool. That'll probably stir up hornet's nest too.
Very few exceptions.
All right, so and that's one thing we were talking about off camera. I thought this was kind of cool. Is there a real difference in product? Because, again, we're not like singling out any one brand or anything like that, but you'll have company A that says our protein pellets, you know, have X percentage of protein, you know, per pound, and we've got blah, blah, blah. They just name off all this stuff, and this is why it's better than company B or brand C or whatever. Like, is there any difference in this stuff? I mean, just being honest about it. Like,
I would say that it's very minor, and it's more to do with how they market and what they market about their particular product versus any major differences. I shared with y'all, of course, it's been several years now that we were buying a lot of feed for a couple of clients, and I just went and bought everything I could get my hands on. And I think it was, best I remember, is 18 different brands of deer feed, and I packaged them up. You know, I knew what they were. The labs didn't know what they were, you know, other than it was just feed, and I sent it off, and I had them break down everything you could break down about a feed. But now we lumped them into protein class. You know, if they were within the same 2% protein, I would lump them together. And if they were in the same protein class, they came out almost identical with protein, total digestible nutrients, acid detergent fiber, the micro and macronutrients. Where it differed was if you know, it's got labels on there and tells you what's in it. If it differed, it had that particular substance either in it or out of it, you know, and some don't have the same things. So from my perspective, you know, at least then, the differences were very, very minor. But, you know, the costs were very, very compatible too. I would say, by and large, if nothing has changed dramatically, and I don't figure it has, that where you're paying a big difference is not because of the product, it's because of the marketing and the packaging. That's the difference you're paying for.
Yep, I got you. So, I mean, not a huge difference. So you could probably save your money by going with, you know, a little cheaper brand or, you know,
I mean, all of our high fences here are using a local vendor that they, you know, they mill their own feed, and it's packaged in a brown bag with their name on it, and that's it. I mean, they're not buying the high dollar, leave the name out, you know, big nationwide seller of feed, you know, whether it be one of the top 5 or 6. They're using local folks because they test about the same.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I mean, you know, we're trying to make the most of our resources, and money's one of them. You know, being able to know you can save a little bit of money and get similar results or the same results is big. So, especially if you've got a bigger property, where you're having to buy lots of this stuff.
Yeah, and there again, it comes down to whether it's free range or, enclosed.
Yeah, I mean, off the
animals.
topic of minerals, if you just take supplemental feed, I have seen that make a tremendous difference in an enclosure deer herd.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, well,
Yep.
you have full control over everything inside of that. And that's like, we had a few people comment either on like some of the shorts on YouTube or Instagram Reels and stuff. And it's like, well, we're talking about genetics,
Yeah.
back several episodes ago. And that's what people were like, I don't guess you've set foot in a enclosure, have you? I don't guess you've set, how do these guys do it in
More than they have.
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
a whole lot more than they have.
But the deal is like, yes, pedigreed, something where you've got 15, 20 generations of this buck and this doe always producing, always,
Right.
you know what I mean? Then that's different, and you can't control that in a free range environment.
Nope.
You can't even control it in an enclosure.
No. Not unless you are
You can do-
AI, doing
you
that kind of stuff.
can do your best by getting the best pedigreed bucks and the best pedigreed does and start from a population of near zero. Likely you're not going to be zero unless you're somewhere around here and put a fence up. You start from zero
You got to
here.
start with nothing in
Yeah.
there.
Then you've got more control than you had, but then you're going to have selective breeding in that pool.
Yeah.
And this particular buck and this doe may not cross as well as the other, and it's just going to be nature.
Yep. Well, I mean, I have personally seen 200-inch deer
Oh, absolutely.
that produced absolute junk offspring.
Oh, turkey
even
head.
with good doe, does from good lineages as well.
They happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to be consistent. You
No.
can have the same pairing, and every time they have a buck offspring, the results are different. So,
Well, I mean, your dad was in the breeding business for a long time, and there's a lot of breeders right here in our local area, and some well-known breeders nationwide. Some of the best bucks in the country come from right here where we
right.
live. And you go to their operations, and do they have giants? Yeah. But they've got a bunch of 130, 140-year-old bucks.
That's
in
right.
there,
40-year-old?
130 130
That's a
inch.
big old.
They've
that's
been
a old
breeding a
deal.
long time.
We're having problems today. Me and Tay are anyway.
I'm telling you, I'm exhausted.
Y'all
Yeah,
need to
sorry.
get more sleep, man. It helps.
130, 140-inch deer, and those deer are getting sold as well, but they're going to a different type client. You may spend $10,000 on your straw or whatever
Yep.
they cost.
Oh, gosh, it's
and
crazy.
$25,000 on your doe. I don't know if does costing that much. I'm sure they do. Most of them I'm around are, a few $1,000s. But you may cross those things and get 130-inch
Produce a
deer.
dud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and to them that's not
Not acceptable.
Yeah, it's a dud. They're still gonna sell it and they're still gonna make some money, but it's not what they were shooting for.
And,
Yeah.
and for some perspective too, like I can speak to this because the whole time that my dad had his enclosure and he was raising deer, he never tried to grow off any of his buck fawns to see what they could be ever, because like you said, occasionally you get duds and you just don't know what's going to happen. And then two, you're also rolling the dice on, like, I'm giving them the best feed.
Yeah.
I'm giving them the best habitat. I'm doing everything I possibly can. They could just die.
Yeah.
They could die. They could get out.
You could look at them wrong.
Yes, you can. I mean, like, honestly.
Break their neck in the fence.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Something
to
spooks
have
them.
such a will to live, they can die so fast in an enclosure.
Yes, man. I mean, they can. And, so you have someone that would come to him and go, here's a check. I want every fawn you have. And so as the owner, you have to go,
Okay.
do I tell him no and roll the dice and see what I can grow these things into, or do I take guaranteed money today? And he just like, man, I can't justify the risk, because I got to say all that to say, if this was a slam dunk every single time that you these deer breed, you're producing just monsters every time. Well, you'd never take that check. You know,
Right.
you would grow them off and you'd sell them and make a whole lot more money. But,
That's right.
But it's just, I mean, you're rolling the dice. So if somebody wants to put money in your hands, you take it.
Look, and the cattle business is the same way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't hold. You know, of course, we're not high registered stuff here. We're a cow calf operation, but you know, you go to some of these sales, and a $250,000 bull, I may be able to buy his direct offspring for $2,500 at a bull sale. You know, he's a year old, 800 pounds. They don't know what he's going to really turn into. Can I take a risk at $2,500? Yeah. Can I afford him when he's 2 year old at $30,000 and they've tested him, know what he's going to be? Nope.
No.
You know, just roll the dice.
That's right. It's a game we play.
Yep.
Last thing here, last question is, what would you recommend to the average landowner when it comes to these supplements and minerals? I mean, I realize everybody has vastly different habitat and different budgets that they can work within, different amounts of land, you know, but your average guy in the Southeast says, I want to make this the best that I can possibly make it for habitat, for wildlife. Are you going, hey guys, let's get your habitat right and let's focus on that first, and
Habitat first.
and then if you want to go throw out some, you know, blocks or rocks or whatever you want to do, then
Number one is you know, temper your expectations.
Yes.
If you are expecting deer feed and this is free range, I'm sorry. If you're expecting deer feed and minerals to change anything about your deer herd, it's not going to happen. Not a major change. Now, if you're in an enclosure, then yes, those things, if done correctly, can be a tremendous boost to your herd. But there again, everything else should come first.
Yep. If you want to really impact deer herds, then you need to work on your understory. It's all about understory management. Anything from 4 feet and down.
and
if you don't have any of that, because you overstory to you.
That's right. If you don't have it,
take care of that.
create it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I, you know, we rarely talk about this, and this, you know, is probably an episode to some people. It's not a mineral or feed, but if you're a land manager, you got a lease that you can manipulate fairly well, don't overlook the importance of water.
Yep.
Yeah, people will go in and just put, you know, I mean, I don't know how you necessarily build one, but, you know, they'll put water sites and, you know, things like that to where.
Depending on your soil type, you know, it's not that difficult. Even, we got a lot of clay in our soils here, so you can go dig a hole and it'll hold water for the most part. But if it won't, you know, there's people putting down pool liners and putting dirt on top of them so it don't get holes knocked in it. You can use bentonite clay and spread it in it, and then it'll seal it up. But just don't overlook it. But, you know, there again, that to me is as much of an attractant as it is anything else at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of the places that I work, water is not a limiting factor, but it can be. Even in the South, it can be on certain sites. But you really, around here, you can't walk from one ridge to the next without a creek flowing almost 10, 11, 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally in, you know, late summer, something like that, you may end up with, you know, some super dry conditions, but for the most part, there's water.
Yeah. Well, and you know, there again, water can be a catch-22 if it's little small pockets throughout the property, and you know it's the water source. Then you can, you know, have problems with EHD too.
I was gonna say, or just these guys going in and putting in, you know, kiddie pools full of water, like that's growing the Alabama state bird.
Yeah. To me, you know, if I'm going to have to focus on water, I want a lot of it, and it dispersed all across the property. I don't want to pull everything to one site. Was that?
Did a bird land on the?
I don't know.
We may be under fire.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, guys.
That one got me.
We're taking heavy artillery in the shop in here.
Maybe my mockingbird out there flying into stuff again. But no, look, it's just as simple as that. You got to have realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all really boils down to that.
And hunters don't. Man, we struggle with that.
I was going to say, I think if there is anything that, especially private landowners, struggle with, like in this present day, it's that. It's like everybody has this expectation that my property is going to produce whatever you think it's supposed to produce, and if it doesn't, then something's wrong. And it's like, nothing's wrong. Nothing is, you know what I mean? You make your habitat the best it can possibly be, and so that whatever deer you have on your property or, other animals can just reach their potential, and that's all you can hope for.
There's a lot of factors that have to go right in the South for a deer to grow 140 to 50 inches of antler. I mean, that, and if you think that if you're a small landowner and you feel like that should be a reasonable expectation, that would be like every time you get up to bat, you expect to hit a grand slam. Mm-hmm. And it's just not going to happen.
No, I'll say
everything has to line up perfectly for that to happen.
Yep. And I'm going to kind of say something that's odd, but to me, it's my belief in the state of hunting where it is today for us in the South. Different regions may be a little different, but all these folks spending all this money doing the feed and the minerals and all these other little additives that cost them a lot of money. If they spent that money and that time trying to win over their neighbors, they would be more successful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If they would do things to try to help neighbors and get on the same page, and look, it's not always going to happen, but if you kill them with kindness, you're a lot more likely to, have a good relationship. But your neighbor's going to impact you. If you're a small landowner, your neighbor's going to impact you more than anything else you do on that place other than habitat management.
The number one limiting factor is lack of trigger control. And the fact that a deer that you may be trying to raise to 140 or 50 inches may very well have the ability to get there, but he's got to cross 19 different property landowners to do it on an annual basis.
Yeah.
So
and for small landowners,
running the gauntlet.
Absolutely. And in our part of the world, I kind of look at it like, I can't think of the guys with the hunting public that are in Michigan. They'll do the little video of their rifle hunting that's in this box in this swamp, and you can see all the other hunters just everywhere, and you're like, there's no way a deer lives through that.
Yes.
And in our part of the world, Taylor's and mine, that's kind of like it's all relatively small land holdings. Here for us, we've got 117 acres here. That's big for us.
Oh, it is.
I mean,
that's a big landowner northeast Alabama.
I bet you I've got 40 neighbors because of all the lots around each side. And so it's just tough.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
I'll never win over all my neighbors. But folks that's got 5 or 6 or 3 or 4, you might. I mean, where me and Matt are, we struggle to get one neighbor on board. If we had that one neighbor, it'd be great, but we don't.
To say, can feel the angst in the tone there.
Yeah.
We're honestly we're still in a pretty good position. I mean, there's a lot of cooperation from several
others
folks.
Yeah. And like here, I'm not worried about. Yeah, I don't know what that is. There may be a bird flying into the side of the building here. From where we're sitting front to the front of my property, I'm not worried about those folks. They're not gonna hunt, and they don't have anywhere to hunt. It's just all lots. But my neighbor right here to my south, they do let people hunt, and they will shoot anything that moves. And look, I put cameras up every year. I've got minerals out just to see what's coming, and I'll pour corn out in the wintertime. And last year, I identified 7 deer.
Nice.
1 buck, and the rest of them were does and fawns. They shot at the buck. I don't know if they killed him. They called me and wanted to go look for it. And I gave them permission to go look, and they couldn't find it, so who knows. But my neighbor to the west owns 300 acres between me and Guntersville Lake. He owns everything.
Mm-hmm.
He and I own the larger tracts right here. And he was showing me pictures. This is the same deer I got on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about the other folks around, but if there's only 7 deer on, our almost 500 acres, likely there's only 8 or 9 deer in this square mile.
Yeah.
So that's a tremendously low population.
Extremely low, yeah.
Yep.
And you got these guys over here whacking the stew out of everyone that they get the crosshairs on.
And you'll never grow a deer population that way.
Well, that's why I attribute us to not having deer,
Mm-hmm.
or not having many. It's so hard for the deer to get here from the population through all the houses and look, our creeks.
Yeah, there's a source population just right down the road.
5.2
That way.
5.2 miles,
Right.
and the source population is probably almost 100 deer a square mile, and we're sitting here 5 miles away and
Can't see a deer.
Yeah, probably 8 or 9 deer per square mile.
Yeah.
But part of that is
Topography.
hunting, but part of it is topography.
Yeah.
Our creeks that cut us off from Guntersville State Park Lodge are sheer wall, and they're 30 foot.
Yep.
I've seen deer do crazy things, but I hadn't seen them do that.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
They'd have to have.
They'd
a
have to
real-
cross.
a
They'd
real
have to
good
cross the
reason.
bridge.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
some real good reason to get up that.
But we are seeing some, still low enough that I wouldn't. I'm not going to hunt anything or let anybody hunt on my stuff. Just enjoy seeing the one
Yep.
twice to 3 times a year.
Yep.
No doubt. Well, guys, anything to add? I think that's about get us for this episode.
I think we're good.
Yeah, looky there. Shout out to the Vitalized guy. Guy sending me a purchase order for some seed.
There you go.
There you go.
I like it.
Awesome. Well, guys, hopefully that was informative, and maybe it didn't offend you too bad. If it did,
I hope it did.
if
hey,
it did, send
I
all your
just-
hate mail to Jeremy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep,
He's
send
the
it to
one
me.
that just don't care.
I
Yeah.
don't anymore.
But we got some more habitat-related stuff coming, and like we said on the previous episode, stick to our YouTube channel, especially all of our social outlets. We're going to have some more in the field type stuff, some burns and
Heck yeah.
planning.
Looking forward to that.
I'm ready to light the world on fire.
That's Matt's management strategy is just burn it.
Yeah, already have, but we're going to burn some more of the world here shortly.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully we got some other guests that we're going to bring on too. We'll
Absolutely.
be talking about some soil
we're going to
building.
We're going to get deep in the weeds with some guys a lot smarter than us.
Yes. Yeah.
Literally in the weeds.
I may not even say a word. I may just sit here and just listen. So let these smart guys talk. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. And last thing I'll say too is if you are in need of habitat consulting, I mean, both of these guys are biologists. They both have the academic side as well as the real life, like actual working side experience of what it means to manage habitat properly. So we've had several of you guys reach out and say, hey, I really want someone to come check out my property, make it all it can possibly be. Do you know anybody that would help us with that? Like, yeah, us. we can do that. So if you're interested in that for a site visit, we'll send the guys out. They'll come check out your place and maybe put together some kind of a habitat management plan for you. And of course, they have to charge for that, but it's part of the game.
That's it.
But we'd love to help you any way that we can. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.